Hey ho, neighbor, welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on a Honda Talon, a 2021 power steering upgrade and replacement. So, let me show you what we got going. Running 32 1150s by 15, and my stock unit, power steering unit, is almost non-existent with that size tire and wheel. Stock 8-inch rear wheel on the front. So what we got to do is got to take all this off, the shaft, the motor, upper and lower shaft, and any related wiring, which I think is just one item. So they say you can remove the rubber piece on the inboard. Instructions say to go here and here first, remove this rubber flap, and then you can get to, well, that's pretty easy to do. You can get to the other bolt that can't get to as easily on the upper shaft. Let's see if we can see something with the yellow in there. I guess that's what I'm looking for. All right. So, yeah, I removed the rubber, and there's the bolt. I don't know what that is, a 10 maybe? And tilted the steering wheel down and rotated the steering wheel 180 degrees facing doing it counterclockwise to get that bolt to come right to the visibility there. And there's the other 10 millimeter on the lower shaft, close to the rack and pinion. A 1/4 inch drive is breaking it loose, and so we're going to loosen these up. I don't think you got to take them all the way out because it's got to slide off the spline anyway. We'll figure out what to do next. Next is unplug the red-black connector. Then I'm gonna undo some more stuff. I don't know what I'm gonna go next, but there's another yellow head 10 on the upper shaft. That one up on the lower part of the upper shaft is a 10. So now I'm gonna try to get some of these split off. I think I got another 10 under here. Yeah, another one. I'm gonna see if I can get some of this off. The aluminum power steering housing is bolted with 12 millimeters. I pulled that top one out right here. It looks like there's 3 maybe holding it. I'm going to take this electric motor off so I can see better. That's 12 millimeter as well. All right, looking back through the gap around the steering column, there's the 3rd bolt. You can get it from the steering column location using extensions. Maybe a swabble or a swivel, and that's what I'm going to do. The bolt I showed you a minute ago was not the right bolt. You got to get the one below that, which is on the aluminum, and I used a bunch of extensions. All right, it's 12 millimeter way in des, and I've got a bunch of extensions, 17.5 inches tip to tip, get to reach this or longer. Couple things I do, I tape my extensions together so I don't lose parts in the no man's land. I have a magnetic pickup tool. I was able to get a hold to the bolt. So next step is who knows what. I'll try to see if I can wiggle this out. Now there's a slide on this shaft right here. It goes in and out. So maybe that'll give me enough wiggle room I can get this apart. So the shock absorber adjuster, whatever you want to call it, on the steering wheel, I took that off. It's 10 millimeter bolt and 10 millimeter nut. Also, I am removing the pivot bolts, which are 12 millimeter, and they are under here where the shaft pivots, so I can get some wiggle room. Gosh, I can't see it. I took it out already, but it's up in there somewhere. A 12 millimeter on either side, and that's what the steering shaft pivots. I got one out, and I got one on the other side. Okay, I moved my stuff out of the way, and there's that 12 millimeter pivot bolt. And I moved this junk out of the way so I get my wrist in there and hand. So those pivot bolts for the steering shaft or get the washer. Well, I guess the washer is on there pretty good, but you might lose it. And 12 millimeter, both sides. A shoulder bolt, 10 millimeter. I had to put this one back temporarily to keep everything from rocking and rolling while I was trying to loosen that driver's side. So now we got everything loose. We can maybe get the slack to get the splines apart on the steering column shafts. All right, as you can see, everything's quite loose. Now we'll see if we can get these splines apart. I'm gonna hit it with some WD-40 and penetrating oil, see if I can get some of this apart. I guess it's gonna fight me a little bit, even though everything's loose. So I used a big screwdriver and I was able to get the lower slide spline that's normally floating out. So that came off. So now this is somewhat looser. I just pried on the motor here and that came out. As you can see, I finally got it out of there, but if you don't pull the bolt out, it's going to catch on that lip in the spline. So pull the bolt all the way out. Sure doesn't look like it will, but it does. As soon as I took it out, I mean, the rest of them are tight as well, but see, you can see if the bolt's still in, she ain't coming off. Take the bolt all the way out, lose the washer, and yeah, she comes off. So that's how that works. I guess it's kind of a fail-safe. In case it gets loose, it just won't friggin' come out until the bolt backs all the way out and gets lost. Pull this 10 millimeter out of this lower shaft assembly to get it off the rack pinion. Pull the bolt out. We'll see if she slides up. And again, that's all it took. Back the bolt out. Slides right off like it's never been bolted. Okay, we are totally disassembled. The first thing you do is you set this out, this orientation with the step, and you lay your motor ECU rather on the top here, and you use 3/4 by M8 bolts that they supply. Tighten it down. So you have two shafts. The upper is the shorty, and that's what I'm going to install next. The long one is for the bottom. So here you got the lower shaft. It's a 13 millimeter on the new shafts. It's supplied by SATV. Again, we're working on a 400 watt. It's a larger motor, and anyway. Next I'm going to put this bracket where the old motor was, using the stock bolts. 3 bolts. And I had it upside down. That's the orientation. Right, there's the bracket in place. Next thing we do is, I believe we set the motor up in there and finger tighten some stuff. Engage the steering wheel shaft. There's the bracket as installed with the stock bolts. Next thing we do is set the motor on top of that and or under that, and connect the upper shaft to the steering wheel shaft. So here we are with a loose motor with a couple bolts barely in. Give me some wiggle room to put the bottom shaft on. I had to put this end on first, which is a coarse spline on the motor side and a fine spline on the rack and pinion side, and I was finally able to get it to start. And then I'm going to do the other here in a minute, which is the upper and the steering wheel and all that. Let's see if I can get this thing indexed and straight as it's supposed to be, straight away with a straight steering wheel. 14 to get this right hand bolt head that's hidden under that other bolt that you can see. It's right underneath there. And a regular 14 on a shorty ratchet. And I had to, like I said, I started that all 3 bolts before I put this lower shaft in. I said that I only had 2 in, but I had to pull the shaft with the 3rd one to get it started. So now the shaft is in place. I just need to put the bolts in, and that'll has a slide, so it'll have some movement for the flex of the machine. So I'm going to check these, tighten these, add that bolt right there because it's not even in, wherever it goes. And yeah. And then we'll go to the next step. Decided to take off the lower cover to give me some room to index the steering wheel shaft column spline to the female on the upper shaft. This comes off with 4 push pin thingies, and then you have to bring it skyward to get it off these clippies. Anyway, let's see if we can index this and get the wheel straight with the steering wheel straight. Well, shout out to Terry Hatfield. He had this called correctly. Yes, you can't. You have to put the slide spline towards the steering wheel because the clearance, as you can see down in there on the box of the steering column, we only have like a 1/4 inch, and we had no clearance the other way. I was going to cut that hole, but that was too much metal and I couldn't get the angle. So we got about a 1/4 inch now with the slide going toward the wheel. Of course, you got to pull the side bolts out of the tilt. And then what I did was, you can maybe see that, I ground a point, a taper, and made them like a body bolt so that they would index easier, because they fight you every step of the way. When you're trying to index it, put your bottom support back on first. That'll get you a little closer. And try to get the steering wheel straight, but if you don't, you can pull the steering wheel right here and move it a tooth or so. But yep, check out Terry Hatfield's video on this too. He's got some good points beside the what I was just ran into. I called BS on it, and I paid the price. Had to redo. Okay, and she's in and working. Now, first off, plug in the 4 pigtails to the ECU before you bolt it on the back of this motor, because you can't see anything once you get it back there as far as orientation goes. Secondly, I changed some stuff around. I cut off about 5 foot of wire. I didn't wire it to the winch because I already had switched 40 amp going to my fuse box. I don't have another 40 amp fuse, but I have a 30. So I have the trigger wire, which is switched, key switched, and this is switched through relay, which is a 40 amp rated relay. So that was already ready to go because I had other stuff on there. Actually, all my stuff's on there that I still need to zip tie some of this, but yeah. So again, make sure you put the sliding spline towards the steering wheel on the upper shaft, because there is just no room. There's still only a 1/4 inch, and it was rubbing on going the other direction. It is so close in there. I don't know if we can even see it. Let me see if I can get a light on it. So, yeah, that's about the best I can do. You can see how the universal on the steering shaft upper is so close to the boxed frame that houses the steering wheel pivots and or support. And I was going to do some clearance, but it's too thick and I can't get the angle. I did bend it a little bit with a crescent since it was so close. Anyway, we're about 3/8 to a 1/4 inch. So I still have a bunch of stuff to put away, that is button up with these fasteners, and, you know, like I said, you got to take this bottom piece off. Let me see if I can get a better picture of that. So I wanted to show you also that I cut a hole in this plastic to get to that bolt. I can patch that later. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference on how much air gets in here, but it will make some difference. I still have to put all this back together. So here's the finished product. She's in. Again, I wired it, switched on power to the white wire. And this is supposed to be constant, but I put it behind my 40 amp relay. And I'm going to change this fuse from a 30 to a 40, and this has already got the 40 in it from the kit. I didn't mount this to anything. Don't really have a good place to put it because I already had my winch controllers over where the plate goes over here, and my lengths were already cut to size. I need one more tie wrap here. Oh, and I wanted to show you this neat little tool from Harbor Freight. It's a flush cutter, zip tie cutter. It keeps you from having a sharp edge on your zip tie when you cut them, and you slice up your hands and fingers next time otherwise. Okay, again, I hope this helps y'all. I didn't see a really perfect video about this, but this will be good for supplemental. Please feel free to comment and share and like, and more importantly, subscribe to the channel, especially if you're new. And thanks again. I hope I earned that today. Thanks again. Thanks for watching.